What grossed you out so much in a relationship that you just left? Before we start with the first story, please hit a subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Number 10. Dated a girl for a while, always seemed really well put together. Nice clothes, hair and makeup. We usually hooked up at my place. Went to her apartment once. The smell when she opened the door should have been enough. There were dirty diapers, overflowing trash cans in every room of the house. There was a super small walkway through the mounds of dirty clothes to the bathroom. And to make it worse, there were used paper plates on top of the mountain of dirty dishes in the sink. She proudly pointed out a moldy dish and said that it was from when she cooked dinner for 2 of our mutual friends 3 months prior. Note the hell out of there. Number 9. Her breath was so bad, I couldn't make out with her. All I could think of was don't vomit. Don't vomit. Edit. First date led to make-out session, but alcohol was involved and either masked the smell or my horniness, and liquid courage just made me not give it a second thought. Second date, we ate some super spicy curries, and it either dulled my senses enough or again, my horniness and lots of kissing breaks got me through it, and we made it to third base. My horniness prevailed. Third date, both of us just went right to my place for sex, and her breath just really was unbearable. She went down on me and I couldn't perform because I was so devastated from her breath that I was just trying to not vomit. She wouldn't let me go down on her, which looking back on things probably was a good thing. TLDR, her bad breath made me nauseous and impotent. My horn could not overcome it, and that was the last we hung out. This one I went through. I later came to find out after I broke it off that she hadn't been to a dentist in years. She was too afraid. And when she finally mustered the courage to go, she had 3 rotting back teeth that had to be pulled. She would speak, and sometimes it smelled like someone had farted in her mouth. Number 8. I showered at his place after staying over and I asked for a towel. He gave me one which had literal skin flakes on. I asked for a clean one. He'd asked what I meant. He did not realize that you need to wash towels because they just have water on them so they clean themselves. Number 7. I was dating a girl and I was younger. She seemed nice and she had 2 small cats. One weekend I went to visit her and the cats weren't there. I asked her where they were. She told me they had gotten annoying, and so she put them in the car and drove to an abandoned bush area and left them. I faked an emergency at home. We lived about a 2-hour drive apart. Left and broke up with her when I got home. Wow, what an absolute monster. I couldn't even imagine doing some shit like that. I have 5 rescue cats of my own who aren't allowed outside. They never survive a day out there. This makes me so sad for those poor helpless babies. People are so cruel. Number 6. Crying if I didn't have sex with him. Needing to be touching me constantly and eventually threatening to kill himself when I tried to break up with him. The guy texted and called for about 5 years afterwards. We dated for like 2 months. Replied, I had one of those. Blind date. We went out 3 times. Maybe 4. She stalked me for 11 years. Drove hundreds of miles every weekend or 2 just to lurk in the parking lot of my college dorm. Drove past my house. Always found me when I moved. Kept coming around after I was married. Kept coming around after she got married. She sent letters saying she'd leave her husband in a heartbeat if I asked her to. The amount of time she invested into driving must have been crazy because we never lived close. It was always at least 45 to 60 minutes one way for her and a little over 300 when I was in college. For as many times as I'd see her drive by or park down the block, I'm more freaked out with how many dozens/hundreds of times I didn't see her. There was a point for almost a year when I didn't see her, and then I discovered that she's gotten a new car. How many times did I not notice her that year? Once a month. Once a day. She finally stopped when her husband had a heart attack. I think she finally realized how much she loved him and left me alone mostly. I still get texts asking how I'm doing though. I work with the public, so my phone number is on billboards and flyers. I never respond. So, if we count the current text after she stopped physically stalking me, I've had a stalker for 28 years. And since everyone asks why I don't just block her, it's because I sincerely believe she would warn me if she was going to do something. I don't know why, but if she ever went off the deep end, like if her husband died or something, I have a feeling she'd tell me she was coming to kill my family to have me all to herself or something. It's essentially been over for almost 2 decades, and I'm still paranoid and playing her game. It's not fun. Number 5. I was on a girls' trip I booked months in advance, a festival. He showed up there and brought one of the other boyfriends with him. I hated it but couldn't do anything but just accept his arrival. Got into a fight with the girls. He did not involve them either with this surprise. Later on, he kept doing this. Internship abroad. He shows up, forcing my roommate to leave. Dinner one-to-one with my dad. He shows up. I moved out because I needed space. He books a trip we cannot cancel. Broke up with him afterwards. He kept showing up in my hometown and it didn't work. It has been 2 years and he texted me congratulations when I got married last year, but all I can feel is anxiety about his control issues. Number 4. Asked me how I ever attempted to seduce my stepdad, who had been in my life since I was 8. I was 18 at the time. I just looked at him in bafflement and horror before asking him had he ever attempted to f*** his adopted sister. He responded with disgust, and yet still couldn't see that he had asked me something horrific. Same dude also said he didn't think anyone was really bisexual. They're just cowards who won't properly come out. When I asked him had he forgotten that I'm a bisexual woman, he smiled and said, "Nah, I'll fuck you straight." All this said within a month of us getting together. He's an ex for a reason. Number 3. At a party with some of my closest friends and a lot of their mutuals, one of our friends who had recently been diagnosed with cancer was sharing some of his experience with chemo. My then-girlfriend interrupted him by saying, "Oh, come on, it's not that big of a deal. We all probably have cancer. Moles are usually cancer. Look, I probably had cancer in all these places on my arm where I had moles removed." There were a lot of other issues that lead to it, but I broke up with her a few days later. I was just so appalled by her lack of self-awareness. These were my friends who I had known for a decade, and she'd only known them for about a year. And we were in a small group of maybe 9 people, most of whom she hadn't even met before. It disgusted me, and I couldn't spend the rest of my night near her. Ended it within the week. Reminds me of my ex-sister-in-law who had kidney cancer and was scheduled for chemo. She was desperate and having something of an emotional breakdown. Her sister's boyfriend was a healer. He gave her reassurance and said, "I've had kidney cancer too," and I healed myself with positive thought. She canceled her chemo, then he persuaded her to drive to see him once a week, 7-hour round trip each time, paid him a lot of money for him to ring some temple bells and chant, etc. Until one day she collapsed in pain, pissing blood, rushed to the ER, kidney removed within a couple of days. Thank goodness it hadn't metastasized. When she came to her senses and confronted him, it turned out he'd never had kidney cancer. It was a metaphor. 15 years later, the sister is still with that f***ing guy, and they are estranged from the rest of the family. Number 2. Dated a guy who said even the smell of mint would make him gag. Mint anything, ice cream, gum, toothpaste, so yeah, he didn't brush his teeth. Wouldn't hear a bar of it when I said there were non-mint toothpaste on the market. I realized after over 6 months together that he was just generally unhygienic and had a specific hang-up about brushing his teeth. He told me he had memories of his mother holding him down to forcefully brush his teeth as a child because he hates mint so much. But I have to wonder if it was always about the mint, or actually the fact that the taste of mint was the most tangible part of that childhood trauma. Number 1. I went away with my ex and saw his toothbrush for the first time. It had black mold growing on it, and the bristles were so flat, the toothbrush had a middle parting. I had a conversation with him about hygiene and told him to get a new toothbrush. But when I stayed at his house 2 weeks later, the cursed toothbrush was still there. So I ended it. Edit. It wasn't charcoal toothpaste. What the F? Basic toothbrushes are so cheap, why would anyone keep one long enough to grow mold on it? How long do you have to keep one before it grows mold? Was he using it for other things? Have so many questions now. Alright folks, that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us today. If you like more of this, please hit a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your own story or thoughts in the comments below. We love to hear from you. I'll see you in the next video.